Sound, Michael. We've got heat, so just kind of run through stuff, and then probably what we can do, if you want to pass one to Nicole, and I think this thing works by hand. You fellas can hold like a little cube.
Yeah, I'll pass mine to Nick. They can have that one. I'll give this one to Nicole. I think
right.
that'd be better.
All right.
Do you want to clip this on you? Do you know how to do it?
Yeah.
All right. What's happening? What are we doing?
What's happening? Listen,
Is that thing running?
I'm a
Let's go.
Like, either the tenant trains you or you.
Dude, we got to get the fuck out of here. It is going to be like 1,000,000 degrees in here in about an hour and a half. They've turned on the air.
Watch your language.
We got to go. We got to go. We got to
on
go.
time
No,
today.
it's true. Hashtag truth. Let's go. All right.
Hashtag should have wore shorts.
Yep.
Everybody's filing in. We'll file in, and hopefully they've already seen some of this stuff about who we are. What are we, Mike? Who are we? What are we doing here?
We're Grid.
What is this?
We are Grid, and we are a global real estate community built for investors, by investors. We're not gurus. We're just a group of people doing real deals, right?
Do you have books?
I don't have books.
Do you have tapes?
Don't have tapes.
Do we have anything for sale?
I have
I have
nothing.
something. Oh crap! All right, I'm gonna.
Sell you, as Alex Ramosi says.
What I'll do though is I'll give some stuff away.
We'll do that.
Well, yeah, let's give some stuff away. So the first two people that come up after we start networking and are willing to like take a picture with everybody and look like you kind of enjoyed the thing, you get some stuff. So I got Robin Thompson's Rehabbing Houses. This is actually really good, right? You saw this one. This is actually pretty informative.
People still have DVDs?
Yeah, I think they've got CD and DVD. And yes, we are clearing out the shelf of the education stuff that we bought. But after tens of thousands of dollars worth of education, some of the stuff is actually pretty good. So I've got a creative seller financing package that's got all kinds of cool stuff on it, and Robin Thompson's really cool rehabbing DVD that I learned a lot from. So you might too. So if you want them, just come take a photo, right? It's easy. All right, so that's what we have to give away. We're not selling anything. We're just trying to do deals. Obviously everybody knows if you're here, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not your attorney, I'm not your accountant, I'll be your buddy. But otherwise vet everything in the room that you hear and anyone that you talk to, because we're just talking about our business and kind of how we do it. Not telling you what to do and not giving you advice. But if you are in here and hopefully listening to something, you might see a guy over there with like a camera kind of thing. Know that photos will be taken, so if you're running from the law, that is your heads up, right? All right, so with that, who are we? My name is Mark Beckett. Some people call me Bex. I do a bunch of different stuff in real estate. I mostly just try to make deals. So if anybody ever wants to talk about a deal, like how to do a rehab deal or buy and hold deal, or you want to talk about how to JV on a thing, you're selling something, I'm just looking for deals. That's why I do this. That's why I hang out with everybody. I get a lot of my business from this, and I like to invest in real estate. So if anybody wants to invest with me, happy to talk about that. Please look me up. That's who I am. Michael?
I'm Mike Weber. I'm an agent and an investor. I work with the Casa Group on the agent side. Most of my clients primarily are other investors. That's kind of where my heart is. I was an investor first, and I fell in love with it, and I was like, I want to help other people do this. So now I work with other investors and help people build wealth.
Absolutely. That is what the king does. Out front, you saw Melinda, and Melinda is a wholesale specialist, right?
She is a wholesale specialist. She's helping on the acquisition side. She is the dispo side of the whole business. So she helps bring deals to cash buyers. So anyone looking for deals, you got to know Melinda. And we met her in this room a few years ago when she was in high school. So the power is in the network, and this room brings a lot of great people together.
Yep. And she's coming up on some interesting stuff, so you definitely want to be on her list.
It's always that interesting.
Where's old Beardy Brandon? Is he still out there somewhere guarding the Chiefs? Brandon, also a big DMV agent for us, loves doing investing things. Responsible for our sweet kosher setup out there tonight. Anyone doesn't have any, definitely grab some crackers and cheese and maybe a little bit of pepperoni. And then say hello to Brandon, as he is our Maryland specialist. So if you're looking in Maryland, he's a guy. And if you're not looking in Maryland, if you're looking in West Virginia, our, I think, only agent
I'm
currently?
the only Casa agent in West Virginia.
Licensed in West Virginia. Very popular destination for short-term rentals, perhaps, maybe, fellas. We'll talk about in a second. You do a little bit of stuff out that way, right?
Sure do. Most of my West Virginia buyers do buy short-term rentals out there. That's
Would you help
my
other people
primary
buy
area of
short-term
focus.
rentals, perhaps?
I hope everybody buys
There you
short-term
go.
rentals.
All right. That's who you need to know. You want to try to find deals, you need an agent who is out beating the bushes and locating them. So that's who you're looking for that. All right, so real quick, we are sponsored by a few people. The first of which is Market Ready Remodeling, which is the company that we have that does pre-sale renovation work. If anyone here is an agent or a seller or an investor that is looking to renovate a property for the absolute least amount of money possible to net the absolute highest amount of money that you can when you sell the house, right? That's what we do. We do it for ourselves. We created this company after 10, 12 years of doing it for ourselves, and for the last 10 years we've been doing it for ourselves and other people. So anyone ever is interested in getting an estimate for doing a renovation to their property to sell it for profit, that's what we help you do. So that's what Market Ready does, and I've got information on that if anybody's interested in that. Simply Funded, that's Cherie.
Yes.
What does she do?
She does both residential and hard money loans. So if you are just looking to buy your own home, regular, more conventional type of stuff, she can do that. And then if you also want to like rehab a property, flip it, a DSCR loan, she has a lot of like exotic products as well. So on the investment side, on the residential side, she's got you covered.
The money lady.
She's the money.
She is the money lady, and money is never the problem, right?
She
She's
also
got
came from a
plenty of money.
background of SBA, so if you're interested in buying a portfolio that has other things to it, she can help kind of point you in the right direction for that type of thing as well.
Yep.
Really good asset to know.
Yeah, money is never the problem, right? We have plenty of people that have plenty of money. All right, Sell Simply. So this is Melinda's outfit. Well, she's checking people in, but what does Sell Simply do?
They're the wholesale division. I mean, they find deals for people. Anybody in here who wants to find deals need to know Melinda. That's the big thing. They're rapidly growing right now, and they're dispoing deals like it seems like one a week. Like they constantly have deals. They're constantly looking for buyers. So if you're looking for a deal and you don't want to be the person knocking on doors, cold calling, and you just want a deal brought to you, you got to talk to Melinda. She's got deals for you.
For sure. I think I've recognized people from True Home Property Management around here. Someone from True Home Property Management here tonight?
Yeah.
Well, Kimberly, what do you do?
So we do residential property management for Northern Virginia, focusing really on Reston, Herndon, Sterling, Great Falls, Vienna, and Fairfax. We do sometimes go outside of those areas, but that's primarily it. We're also starting maybe to break into the midterm rental space.
And Kim, you manage properties on behalf of other landlords, keep
Yes.
their books clean,
Yes.
get their bills paid, get their rents in, produce nice reports that they can just fork over to their tax guys. You don't run around with a box of stuff that you don't file your taxes for 5 years, right? Get a property manager because you don't want to be your own accountant and you don't want to be your own bad guy. Let somebody else be the person that chases people down, make them pay, and keep your books clean. So True Home does that for us. And then our good friends at Atis Title, just closed a deal there with them yesterday. That was arduous, but they are super cool and understanding folks and get what it is that we do. I've closed wholesales with there. I've closed wholesales with there where we like bought a thing, sold it within like a week, and then they had to like double and reclose it. And they're just good.
Investor friendly.
Investor friendly, right? At what we do. And then they do regular title stuff too. But they are a good group of people to know because when you do what we do, you're going to want a title company that gets it. And they get it. So that's why we like them. All right. So that's us. But really, we have people who are better than us tonight to talk about this topic around short-term rental. Aaron,
Yeah.
say hello.
I'm going to take that or take
And
that. You need me to take this. Okay. So I'm Aaron Kavanaugh. I am an agent on CASA. I've been with CASA 8-9 years now, something long term. I've been in real estate since 2002, so I've done almost everything that you can think of, except get in trouble, which is always a good thing. I really started focusing my energies. I live out in Berryville, which is an hour west of here at the moment. With traffic, it might be longer than that. But basically, with COVID that came around, everybody was like, where am I going to go? I need to be able to work from home or, I want to at least have some place to escape the nonsense. And so I started showing property out in Front Royal and out in Linden and way out in Basie and stuff like that. And so what I noticed was my energy level went way up when I did that. The reason is it's different. Obviously, the scenery is really nice, but the houses that are out there, the styles are different. You've got A-frames, you've got log cabins, you've got things that are in the woods, and that's just my feel, right? That's where I generate the most energy. Since then, I have taught myself as much as I could teach myself. I already reach out to other investors and friends like Corey, and most of my business has now come from just being on Facebook, joining Facebook groups. That's where I got started, and now I have relationships with several different STR consulting companies that consult with people. They pay the investor pays the fee to the consultant, and they come to me to find the property. They can come to me directly too, but a lot of it just is they're doing their thing. I'm dealing with hundreds of investors nationwide each and every month looking at our area, and we'll get into the reasons why. But short-term rentals, great opportunity for you to make some serious cash, but it's not passive like they tell you. It's very active. You have to be in the game. You have to watch the trends. You have to see what's going on with the economy, what's going on not only in real estate, but what's going on in like tourism, marketing, what fun things to put in houses, things like that. So it's a little bit more than just real estate.
Yeah, cool. All right, look forward to chatting with you further. Mr. Corey, please say hello.
How you doing? Thanks for the intro. My name is Corey D'Agostino. I currently live down in Raleigh, North Carolina, but lived for a long time in Annapolis, Maryland. Started investing in real estate about 19 years ago with my primary home. We started buying primaries as we moved out of one, and we would rent the ones that we left behind. Got into duplexes, the BRRRR method, took some of the money from our first BRRRR that we did and put it into a triplex, started buying triplex and quads, then got into the 5 to 10 unit area. And 3 years ago, I switched one of my long-term rentals in Annapolis to a short-term rental, and the gross revenue went from $2,300 a month to $8,500 a month. And I was like, okay, let's see what this is about. So,
Same property. By the way.
so we started buying out in Shenandoah. So we bought a couple properties out there, did very well, did some sub-2 sales out there as well. And now I am all in on short-term rentals. I used to work for a little company some of you may have heard of called CoStar Group. So I worked for them for about 12 years. As I was working for them, that's where I was kind of funding a lot of my real estate investments. Left there about 3 years ago, and I've gone all in on the short-term rentals. So now I'm owning my own properties. I manage properties for other people. I also do coaching and consulting as well on the short-term rental business, and I love every single second of it.
CoStar
as
pretty big in
Aaron.
real estate research.
I'm sorry?
Right? CoStar pretty big in real estate research.
Yeah, a little bit,
right?
yeah.
Really big company in real estate research, so I'll bet that kind of informs your view on the world.
Sure.
To be research heavy and to learn as much from what else is going on out there.
Learn as
Steal the
much.
best ideas
Yep.
And bring them back to your
You got
views,
it.
right? Cool.
They recently bought, if you're realtors, you're probably homes.com, right? So they now own homes.com, they own apartments.com, they own LoopNet, big company. So
Super
Yep.
excited to have you
Yep,
because
absolutely.
Oh, well, you don't need too much more introduction, but I was saying, Corey single-handedly helped us get profitable on our short-term rental portfolio with the techniques that maybe some of which we'll talk about for how to understand the algorithms and platforms and what makes a short-term rental actually kind of pop and work. So super excited to have you, and thank you very much for spending some time with us. With that, I'll give you that back.
Okay.
Because Nicole's got a mic, she's hot. You do short-term rentals, you find them for people, you work with investors, you maybe know what these guys have gotten up to and into and what they like and what they want. Let's pepper them with some questions. Find out kind of what it is that they're looking for. What do they like? What are the legal considerations? What are the marketing thoughts? What's up with these platforms? Because I do a lot of rehabs and buy and hold landlord kind of stuff. And what's the difference, I wonder? I bet there are a few between what we do with our cheap LVP that we put in the thing just to get it flipped or sold or rented, maybe versus what these guys are doing in their properties. I'll bet they've got some stuff to say.
Becky, can I,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It didn't
Yeah.
blow
What's up, Bob?
It didn't blow up.
just show, who owns a short-term rental in here already? Let's just read the room, right? Okay, we've got some people, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, hire, right?
And by the way, when we say short-term rental, for anybody that doesn't, we're talking about, we all kind of know what regular landlording is. You try to find somebody that will stay in your place for like a year or more at a time. You stick them in there and you hope you never hear from them again, right? Love it. It's great. Mailbox money. Hopefully I can just ignore these people unless something breaks, but most times just checks show up, and hopefully I have a good property manager that makes sure the checks show up and fix stuff when it breaks. Super hands-off, super easy. Short-term rental is Airbnb. If you're not familiar, hop on the platform. It's a whole fun world out there of people who are sharing their homes for other people to stay in for a day to a month to a year, if that's what you're into. Different kind of rental relationship that you're into, right?
30 days or less, yep.
It's typically 30 days or less.
Mhm.
Well, let's just start with that. Why is it typically 30 days or less?
There is certain rules that come along with that. So anything that is longer than 30 days, you may wind up with an eviction process that you would have to deal with in getting them out. Less than 30 days, you can do almost anything you want depending on the area that you're in. So that's the big one.
So 30 days or more, the person who's staying in your house maybe gets looked at in the eyes of the law more like a tenant
Correct.
as opposed to a
Just a guess.
guest, right?
Correct.
Oh, we don't.
Correct.
30 days or less, like you could get the National Guard, you could get Marines, just pulling random.
That's a really good question.
Well, we're not going to talk about politics here today, but at the end of the day, we're going to just say, listen, it's all about the time frame. It's usually people on vacation, needing a place to stay overnight. This really transformed from the hotel space. Like if you go out to the Shenandoah right now, there's very few hotels.
Mhm.
And that's why this particular location is good for it beyond some other things that we're going to talk about. But at the same time, you know, it's a limited thing. People have families, and hotels don't necessarily match that feel, like having kitchens and washer and dryers and things like that. So it became a easier place for people to stay, similar to their own home, just a different location, just for a week or 10 days or a day, whatever.
Becky, but you like, I wanted to know who has vacation rentals, so some of you raise your hand, right? I'd also love to know where you have them, how many, because we wanna we want the room to collaborate as well. You learn from from people in the room, so where do you have your short-term rental?
I have 3 beach duplexes in the Outer Banks that I ran for 2 years as short-term rentals. I raised my hand to participate, but I did switch them to long-term about a year and a half ago. But I have 2 years of experience.
Cool, and it's good to know potentially why.
Why,
Right,
that's
yeah,
what I was gonna
yeah.
ask, why?
I actually did some hardcore math one day, and I just figured out that I would be $100 richer per month, I think, on each one if I ran them as Airbnbs, and I traded that for all my time back.
That
Makes perfect sense,
fantastic, yeah.
especially for that
Totally.
type of asset, and I'll get into that here.
Fantastic,
Mhm.
yeah, and that, there's a big difference too between a seasonal spot, like the Outer Banks, and maybe a spot that you can rent short-term, year-round, cabin, mountain, things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that specifically.
Anybody else got a short-term rental? Where's yours?
We have most of ours in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. We have around 26 houses.
Wow,
Mostly single-family homes or row houses.
cool.
When you say DC, Maryland, and Virginia, do you mean like within the district, Northern Virginia, Fairfax County, Maryland?
Within like 30 miles radius from here.
Okay, within a 30 minutes radius of Reston.
Cool.
All right, so I don't know at what point we wanna discuss like how that works, cause I'm really interested to know how you get around like a 180-day rule for maximum rental, which by the way, you're not on camera. You're not facing anything, nothing's facing this way.
That's fine. So we have our properties owned by different family members, and they stay over there.
Okay,
Or officially they do.
Yeah.
Most of them are their primary residences.
got
So, yeah.
it, okay.
Makes
And
sense,
yeah.
makes
Is,
sense.
is that still, the rule in a lot of the larger jurisdictions though, that, like as far as I'm aware, in like Fairfax County and probably Montgomery and
DC and maybe even farther out. I believe the current status of regulation is that unless it is your primary residence.
Correct.
And you're letting people stay, most of the closer in jurisdictions have 180 night max.
So
on
Fairfax
the-
County is 60 days annually. That's the maximum number of days that you can rent it to someone. DC, you have to be a primary resident, right, to do that. I do actually know of a portfolio that's getting around that somehow, and I got a thing for you. I'll talk to you about it after the fact. He's got it in more of a hotel status than something else, but that's a different arrangement. But yeah, most of the things that we're going to talk about, it's all about finding the right spot, investigating all the rules and regulations so that you can maximize the opportunity for sure. Like the beach properties are wonderful if you want to go and visit personally with your family, but at the same time when COVID hit, the Outer Banks were shut down. Unless you were a primary resident, you could not get in and off that island. And so I have a friend that actually owned one. She purchased a house there. It was $800,000 ready to go. And then COVID hit and she couldn't even get to the house to take care of it. So 8 months later of $800,000 a month mortgage payments, she was swimming upstream and then was like, I'm done. And
Pandemics can be a bit of a problem to leisure travel.
you got it. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously nobody knew that it was coming, but just it's one of those risk factors that we are always analyzing. So with fix and flips, you try to analyze the deal to the best of your ability. I'm also looking at it from a rules and regulations standpoint on top of the financials. So,
And so, Nicole,
Yes?
what happened, we're talking about COVID,
Mm-hmm.
what happened like 2 months after the COVID outbreak broke? Do you recall that summer of 2020 and the
Well, I personally wasn't an agent then, so I don't know what
Traveling.
happened during that time in the real estate market.
Aaron, what did you see?
yeah,
Corey, what
so
did you see?
I saw a lot of people, and for myself as well. So I didn't know what was going on. Nobody knew what was going on. So I'm an older guy. I'm 53, and so they always say, yeah,
You're young, bro.
Yeah, I know. You get over a certain age, you have certain disabilities like diabetes, right? They really make you nervous about these things. So I was like, okay, I've got to figure this out because I'm not going out there where there's a lot of people. And I just was scared. So I just started changing and I saw a transition. I've done this a bunch of times. So remember back in 2005, 6, 7, 8 when all the market was kind of like, right? Everybody was selling their house and the prices were declining rapidly. I was a listing agent at that time. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to shift myself. So I shifted and I jumped into open houses 100%. And with all these properties that were on the market, people would come to these open houses. Well, I'm now sitting there in the open house, and the government also was giving out $8,000 checks at that point. Remember that? Little credits of $8,000 every single time. So I said to the buyers as they were walking in, you can buy this house today for 10% less than what we have it listed for, and I can get you all the closing costs paid plus the $8,000 tax credit. And I created extreme value. Well, that year I sold the most real estate I've ever sold in my life by becoming a buyer's agent.
And Corey, you were investing in short term, you did your transition in 2020?
Yep, just after, not just after, right? I mean, in the middle of, right, COVID, I started hearing about all the short-term rental stuff.
So what did you see from that summer of 2020 to the summer of 2021? As far as
We were still in long terms, but the noise around short-term rentals was getting louder and louder, right? And with all the long-term properties that I had, I looked at my wife and I said, listen, our lease is coming up on this one property in Annapolis. Let's take this, get them out, redo the place, get it furnished, and see what it does as a short-term rental.
Yeah.
And so that's where we went from the, like I said, $2,300 a month gross up to, I think I said $8,500. It's like $8,000 a month gross for that same rental. And then we were clearing, instead of $300 a month off of the long-term rental, we were clearing $2,500 a month off of that $800.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, okay, this is where we got to shift to, and we started looking at other markets where we could do this. Annapolis was a good market, but we knew that there were better markets out there, which is why we jumped into Shenandoah. The first place we bought in Shenandoah, we did some work to it, and we started getting $4,000 a month cash flow after everything was paid, including the mortgage. and we were just like, all right, we're all in on this. So
Yeah.
we went all in and bought a couple more. Like I said, started managing, started helping other people, and it just kind of has taken off from there.
And to finish my thought real quick, so coming back to the short-term rental, I saw a transition. A lot of people were selling DC, selling Fairfax, selling Reston, and moving west. This has always been the trend, right? But when this happened, I just started saying, hey, come to the woods, come to the woods, come to the woods. And then now I'm in the middle of learning. I met Corey. We're now cash flowing properties, and it just became a win-win.
Well, we bought one.
We bought one in 2021, right? Or 2022, I can't remember.
22.
22, yeah. So we bought it in January of 22. I just liked the house. I thought it was cute, right? We didn't really
Know what we were doing.
know what the hell we were
At all.
doing. We didn't.
But my point about the market, anybody here have a short-term rental in 2021? 2020? All right. I don't ever want to call anything easy,
No.
but the thing that you might have heard about was called revenge travel. As soon as people could get out of the house, or as soon as people realized, I don't have to go back to an office anymore, I can live in other places, Airbnb type travel exploded.
Yeah.
Would you agree that it was maybe a touch easier to keep a unit full in 2021 and 22 than maybe today?
There's no maybe to agree. I will 100% agree, right? I look at it, the real estate's been around for a long time. The short-term rental market, I still think is in its infancy, right? It started a few years, actually started before COVID, but COVID's when it really started taking off. But it hasn't seen the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs of what economic cycles do for leisure and hospitality travel that the regular real estate market has gone through. So yes, I have seen, I don't want to say a slowed down, I just want to say it's gotten more challenging.
Competitive, perhaps?
Absolutely, right?
So what has changed, do you feel like, as far as what you have to provide
Sure.
as an Airbnb owner versus maybe a couple of years ago?
That's a fantastic question. So there's a number of different things. I think 3 years ago, or I know 3 years ago, you could set up a property, you could furnish it halfway decent, you could put it up on the short-term rental platforms, and you would get bookings. Would not be a problem. If you took that same property with the same furnishings and put it up on that platform today, and do an apples to apples comparison, you would be underwater. There are too many people coming in, and I don't want to scare anybody away from it but it's out there, right? There's people who are coming into this space with deep pockets and a lot of money. They're out there, right? They're spending a lot of money on the properties, and then they're spending even more money on the renovations and the amenities that go into those properties. I think some of it does go overboard. I don't think all of it's absolutely necessary every time somebody goes ahead and buys a short-term rental. But I do think that there are key amenities, depending on your market, that you need to put in. And I also think you have to have stuff in your back pocket to keep up with the market as it changes this year, next year, the year after. Because it's not slowing down. There's people still coming into the market buying short-term rentals. And if you can't keep up or better what's out there, you will start to fall behind. So I think it's good that you get up there. The first year, I don't want to say the first year is easy. The first year can be a little bit easier if you're doing it the right way. You do get a boost on the platforms because they want to promote your property. But I have noticed after a year, unless you can keep up or unless you can juggle your property a little bit, it does start to slip. So like Aaron said earlier, it's not necessarily passive income. If it's something you think you just put up there and set it and forget it, you're going to fail. You can do something, what they call a co-host or a property manager. I do that as well. I'm happy to take your property and manage it for you. But if you're looking to cash flow and make money on it, I think it's important that you learn how to self-manage and do it yourself. Because most of your profit will go to the property manager or co-host if that's the route you're going. And that's okay with some people. I do have people that I co-host for that they're not worried about if they're cash flowing on the property. They want it for the tax write-off. They want to do the cost segregation study to write off against their W-2. So there are people out there, but if you're looking at cash flow, I think you need to learn how to self-manage it yourself.
Corey, I would imagine every market's different, but what are some of the trends that you're finding are like must-have in your vacation rental, your short-term rental right now compared to a couple of years ago?
Sure. So I think I can speak specifically to the Shenandoah Valley market. I think the must-have hot tub, right? Like, it's a no-brainer. If you're getting your property, you need to get a hot tub. Just build it in as part of the cost, or buy a property that already has a hot tub. And the next must-have that's out there at this point are the game rooms. Or as I have at one of mine, a game shack. I built a whole separate structure on the property to fit games so that people can come up and play them.
And how did you find that out? Like that those were the must-have amenities?
Well, the hot tub has always kind of been there, right? I mean, the hot tub's been there. The game shack, I saw a couple of other people doing it, and I was like, oh, if I can swing this, I'll do it. And so I did it, and it definitely made a difference.
We call it R&D, research and duplication, right?
Yeah.
How does your hot tub tie in with your insurance and liability factors? 'Cause naturally as well, these people are probably going to be partying and having fun, which involves alcohol. Alcohol people plus water is
Sure. There's a couple of short-term rental specific insurance companies out there. One is Steadley, the other one is Proper. And they do cover for stuff like that. However, you're essentially running a business. So as you're running a business, you can call around and get the proper insurance from some of the other companies out there. I think a couple of my properties are insured with Erie, I believe, or Erie.
I got Erie.
I think it's an Erie policy, but they have, it's a business policy essentially, so it's covering, they know you have a hot tub, they know what your property's being used for, so that it's covered as well.
So same similar question with a wood burning fireplace, right? Everybody's like, oh
Yep.
my God, I gotta have a wood burning fireplace, and then all of a sudden, the insurance company won't cover you now because they don't want guests burning real wood in your property. So.
A quick follow-up on that. With, you know, ADUs can be used as short-term rentals as well. And if you're doing an ADU, do you need to do a separate insurance policy for that? Like, for example, if I have a home in Arlington, spacious yard, I put an ADU in it, do I need to get a separate business insurance? And I guess, well, I wouldn't be licensed in Arlington, but I would need separate insurance for the ADU.
I would call your insurance company and ask them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a homeowner's policy.
If there's
Yeah, I would call them.
I always play it safe. Like if there's ever a question, pick up the phone, call your guy, and ask that question because you don't want to be caught in a situation where you're now.
And this is the place to be honest, right?
Yeah,
You
for sure.
You tell them exactly what you're worried about.
Yep.
I got a hot tub, I got lawn darts, I got a bungee cord.
Lawn darts are
Tell
great.
them what you've got.
I got a
and then
tree
they'll
house.
Tell you got a
Tree
tree
house.
house that might fall down.
That's a big one.
Then
Corey's
they'll
got
tell
a
you
zip
what
line
they
in
can do or
his
where you
yard.
should go. But that's what Proper's for, and some of these Steadleys, that's what they specialize in. You pay for it, but you can get coverage that you need for this kind of business.
For sure.
You just have to treat it like a business. It's an excellent question, which gets me back to these things that you're talking about, the research that you have to do, the coverage that you have to have. This really isn't the same as the good old-fashioned landlord game. You're not a landlord anymore. You're a host. You're
Yep.
Yeah.
running a tiny little hotel, right?
Sure.
And we're competing in some cases with hotels. But I think the reason we like Shenandoah, as you said, Aaron, maybe not so much that competition, but mostly just other people doing the same thing.
So let's talk about that. So Corey came up with the 4 Ps strategy, right? So I learned a lot from this guy right here too. So Corey, what's the first P?
The property.
The second P?
I have a big 3, and
You
then
have the big
we have a
3,
couple we
you
added
have a
on.
couple added on. Alright, so what's your big
So the property is the first P, right? So the property you buy, I think can make your life a lot easier or a lot harder, right? All you have to sell your property to guests is the picture that is on the platforms. So the property needs to be aesthetically pleasing, right? It's got to have a unique look. And the design on the inside and the amenities that you're putting inside and the outdoor space on the outside of the property all have to be photogenic, right? And look good when they're online. Again, you don't have the chance to pick up the phone and call somebody and convince them why they should stay at your place. All they have is that initial picture, and then they're going to choose whether or not to look at another one or click through and look at your property. So I think the property and having a unique looking property is super important to making your short-term rental successful.
For the kind of Shenandoah Valley, even applies to West Virginia, can you tell people, like, what is that property they should be looking for? What's unique? What's going to catch people's eye?
That's a good question. So there are properties that I see that are rectangle shaped. There are properties that I see that are square shaped. The roof line is not anything special. It comes up one side, goes down the other side. I don't think those necessarily stand out unless you have some really nice outdoor amenities that can make up for that. So properties with different angles on them, properties that are not just a square or a rectangle, but that have some cut-ins and cutouts or different roof angles, bump outs on the roof, right? All of those make for a unique looking property that will catch somebody's eye.
I'll add, yeah, so A-frame, mid-century modern, log cabins. Now, I've also sold ramblers that have really wicked views or on the water. So it's not just the house itself, it's where it's located. So if I were to tell you about the market in Shenandoah Valley right now, between three counties, Warren, Shenandoah, and Page, there's about 325 listings. About 10% of those are considered Airbnbs to me. So think about 325 down to about 30 properties in all price ranges, and then the competition comes in because they're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, right?
A question, have you found, again, in this general area, it could be different, like at the beach, but that smaller properties might be better than larger properties, like help?
Yeah, I'll take that. And Corey, we'll get back to the
When I
piece
say
in too.
better, I mean more profitable,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
That's my filter of better.
We'll answer that one too.
Yeah.
So going back to his P's, you got to find the right product, right? Which is part of your question. You got to find the right people to help manage it. You got to have professional photos, and then it's got to be priced right. That's the fourth P that I add in there. So he taught me all of that. Okay, so I'm not taking credit for that. With this said, I love the Shenandoah Valley. Price point is still relatively low for the market, right? We all know that Shenandoah Valley, you can go out to the market and get a $300,000 house today, 2 bed, 1 bath.
Which, by the way, actually, I don't want anybody there because we want to buy all the property. But that said, think about that. It's next to the richest county in the United States. Like, it's why we started buying out there, because we're like, just growth is going to go out
In the
there.
path of progress.
In the path of progress. But don't go.
Don't go. Yeah,
Unless you're
so,
going to buy with my.
so let's talk about some of the hottest markets out there. So everybody knows what the Smoky Mountains are, right? Everybody
Yes.
thinks of the Smokies as a really like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. Well, the average price point of a house there, 2 beds, is $1 million, right? And they're only bringing in revenues close to 120K.
Yeah. So that's why I still love investing in Shenandoah Valley. So if you're looking out in the Smokies, if anybody's interested in short-term rentals, that must have come across your plate at some point, right? So you've taken a look out there. So for the $1 million home that you can buy, you're picking up about $100,000 in gross revenue, and that's what the numbers are across the board out there. The $700,000 home is probably doing about $70,000 a year, and they're putting it right in their listing, and that is good for them. Whereas over here in Shenandoah, you can buy the $350,000 home, and you can do $70,000 in gross revenue.
Yeah,
Right, so-
last year our property did 76 based on your.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath in Rileyville that I bought. You helped me buy it, right?
Yep.
The guy was selling the property.
Because he was not making money.
He said, short-term, these were his words, short-term rentals are dead. The market is too saturated. So he sold his property. I picked it up for 300 and, was it 25 or 50?
Yep.
325?
Yep.
I put a hot tub in there.
You put a game, a flat top Pac-Man game.
One game, right? It's not a game room.
You go to the pizza joint, you got the Pac-Man game,
Right.
you put that thing in there.
It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Bought it for $325, and we did $78,000 on that property last year.
Do you think that was it? Like that would move the needle, just the hot tub and the game?
No.
No, I
he's
think
got-
it.
He's got other things.
It's
to
a
do.
leading question, bro.
So I like the aesthetic of the property, right? I think that the piece of land it was on and how the property looked was very nice. It had a front porch. It has a front porch. It has a nice back area that we were going to paint a wall and put the hot tub in. So that goes to the P for the property. The next part is we got professional photography. So we do interior, exterior, twilight, and drone photos. So you have a nice property. The reason you want the nice property is because it shows up even better with the twilight drone photos, right? All the lights are on the inside. They get that thing up on an angle. It shows the property and shows all the outdoor amenities that you have. And then there is the pricing strategy, right? There's software out there. It's called Price Labs. That is dynamic pricing. Then you've got Airbnb and VRBO, and then you've got your property management software. The pricing, anybody can buy Price Labs. It's like 20 bucks a month. But if you do not know what you're doing in Price Labs, there's about 101 different levers that you can pull in there. It doesn't matter that you have Price Labs. Your property's not going to do anything if the levers aren't pulled the right way.
Can you just explain dynamic pricing?
Sure. So dynamic pricing is what happens to all of us when we go to buy airline tickets or hotel, book a room. The price you see today is going to be different in a week from now. It's going to be different in a month from now. It's going to be different in 6 months from now. So the dynamic pricing for short-term rentals takes a look at the market you're in. It takes a look at the seasonality of the market. It takes a look at the different events that are happening in your market. So for example, Shenandoah Valley, when you're on dynamic pricing, it knows that in the fall, in October, your pricing goes way up because everybody comes to the area to see the leaves change. So it already knows that, so your pricing goes way up. Then it takes a look at the occupancy at your property compared to similar properties in the area. So it looks at the occupancy of the other properties in the area and then moves your pricing up and down according to if you're booking or if the other properties are booking and vice versa. And that's how dynamic pricing works. You do have to go in
And set your minimums.
and you have to set a minimum price. You have to set a base price. And those are crucial because if you don't set the right minimum price and the right base price, you're either going to be overbooked in the sense that you're going to be booked all the time, but not at the price point that you could be or want to be. But if you set that price too high, you're not going to get a booking, or you're going to get sporadic bookings, and they're going to be at a great price, but your calendar is going to be open because not that many people are looking for a property in that price
It
point.
gets even worse when the guest comes to your house at the high price and then writes a 4.0 or 3.0
Sure.
review that says overpriced for, value or whatever the case may be. So
Right.
there's a lot to that.
Sounds like
Pets,
a lot
no
of-
pets.
Pets is 100% need in my book, especially in this market. So I think people, so there's one other big thing. So this particular Shenandoah Valley, we are an hour and a half west of DC. We're 2 hours, 3 hours from Philly. We can get Richmond, Harrisonburg, and other locations all come in here for what he just mentioned, the river, the hiking, and the leaf changes, right? So in my mind, this is like the center of what everybody looks for because you can get travelers just coming for the weekend. So what we are seeing, in my opinion, and forgive me for putting this out there, but I think the Shenandoah Valley is an automatic 50% if you just do the bare bone basics.
What do you mean? An
50%
automatic
vacancy?
Vacancy should
Occupancy,
be
yeah.
weekends only, right? So I'm gonna fill up Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, and leave Sunday. That's, if you take that based on the month, 2 times 4 is, almost, that 50% occupied scenario.
Well, I just want to add something that I find interesting with the pets, is that 66% of US households will have a pet in some fashion, and I work at rentals, and sometimes people ask yes or no on pets, and that's, if you say no to pets, that's an automatic 2/3 in the market you're saying no to. So even if you're not comfortable with pets, sometimes we say, hey, let's case by case it, because just leave that door open as a
Sure.
possibility.
So
Well,
it's a funny,
and last thing, just real quick, and
Yep.
I apologize. So I'm just thinking about the guest, right? So my wife and I like to go out in the woods, and so we don't plan a lot of vacations because we just don't. We don't have a lot of income that's set aside for that at this point. So, but we do have long weekend opportunities, and so that short, like what we see on our own properties, is that it gets booked later. Like, oh, Monday, here comes Friday, it's not booked. We snag it, and then we go and we bring the dog because we don't have enough time to throw him in the kennel and he can go on the walks. You took Prim out in the woods, like she loves that stuff. So it's just one of the things that I look at the trends of people, right? And so I can say that the Shenandoah Valley is probably start off at 50% occupied if you have the right property, the right photos and all that. Then it's this pricing strategy to fill in the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays that really made our property more profitable.
I have a question for you.
sure.
What is your target operating cost on your properties?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it in that much depth, but I'm just trying to think of my numbers real quick to give you what
Yeah,
my number is. Less debt service,
less debt service.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, just straight operating, and I know that you're operating your own property, so it's not,
Yep.
doesn't include any kind of management, but I'm just curious.
So the cleaning cost is the largest expense.
Yeah.
It'd be second to the mortgage.
Yeah, yeah. we're
If
not
you have the
gonna
debt,
count
yeah,
mortgage.
don't count the debt service, right? 'Cause some people might not have it because they could go in with cash. 30%,
That would be your target.
my target.
Ours are around 50%, right? What would you say our operating costs are, on the ones we own, have been around 50%?
Yeah, probably.
Which
Our
means
particular-
if you got 6,000 in gross,
Is that
Right.
including management?
that includes a very low management
But it's
fee
a
of
very
5%.
small, for us, a very small management.
Yeah, no, this is what people don't understand. Operating
And that's
costs-
self-managed, by the way, the 30%.
That's right.
Right.
Operating costs on these Airbnbs are somewhere between 40 to 50%.
Why?
They just, because of cleaning,
Yeah.
because of turnover,
You-
because of maintenance, like wear and tear, people making babies in your Airbnb.
They're hotels. People treat them like hotels. What
Right.
have you seen or heard of people doing in a hotel? What's the
Cutting grass.
most interesting situation you've seen?
The most,
But Corey, I would want you to really nail that number,
yeah,
right? And then come back and
Sure.
share that number with me.
sure. I'll get that in 1 second. I want to go back to the pet thing real quick because my thought on pets has evolved a little bit. The first thing, I was always like, yes, you need pets. You have to allow pets. You have to allow pets. $100 to bring a pet has been my kind of go-to. We bought a really nice property up in Basie, and my wife was like, no pets here. And I said, listen, we got to have pets because if we don't have pets, we're not going to get the people because people like to travel with their pets. She goes, I don't want pets. And I said, well, what if we just charged a lot for the pets? And she said, fine, charge a lot for the pets. So so Airbnb came out with a different price setting where you could charge not just for the pet coming, but per pet per night.
Yeah.
So
People pay a lot.
so
for
people
pets.
pay a lot of money. So
Well,
so we
time out. You're gonna pay $100 a night, take your pet to the kennel.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Might as well pay it to bring him with me and know that he's being taken care of and not getting
Service animal.
COVID. Right.
Right. That's very well.
Pet COVID.
So we started, so at the property that we have in Basie, we started charging $50 per pet per night. And the first guest who booked with their pet brought up 2 dogs, stayed for 4 nights. It was an extra $400 on the trip. Paid it, no problem. And my wife was like, fantastic, right? So, you know, there's the emotional attachment to the property, which I tend to cut off. Not everybody can do that. It gets a little bit more difficult. So if you don't want a pet, charge a pet fee that you're comfortable with, that you know you're going to get if somebody stays at the property. I do have a property, not mine, but Sam's, right? We sold that to him, and he was like, no pets. And I was like, dude, you got to allow pets or else you're not going to make it. He doesn't allow pets. He actually does very well. So that's a pet-free property, and he stays very full without allowing pets. So it can be done.
Yeah, you're catering to people that have allergies.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
That's how you would market it.
Yep. So
Pet-free zone.
Pet-free zone.
Like,
Yeah.
literally, this is not just real estate. This is why I jumped in. I'm like, I came from my original careers was restaurant management and hospitality, and like, I've got real estate background now. I'm like, and then I learned all this technology, and I learned all this, investing strategies from Mark and Rob, and I'm like, holy shit, now I can do this with real estate? How cool is that? And now I'm looking at how the transformation of Airbnb is actually going away from real estate to experiences. There's actually a tab at the top that says experiences, so it's really cool.
What was your question?
I have two.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the first question, how fast do you take care of the repair and maintenance items? What's the turnaround time like?
What's the repair or maintenance that needs to
Well,
be
that
done?
could be anything. Your toilet is not working, your AC is not working, there is no hot water.
So I go pretty quick at this point. So this is where Aaron and I talk to people a lot, and I'm not patting you on the back. I'm not patting me on the back, but Page County and